All right, sit back and listen to some information you've never heard before. Before we get to the list, don't forget to turn on notifications. Number 10. The Cosmic Jellyfish. In 1996, aboard the Space Shuttle Columbia, 250 miles above the surface of the Earth, in the absolute silence of low orbit, several astronauts watched something move outside the window that had no right to be moving at all. Not tumbling debris, not a stray piece of equipment, not ice. Something that pulsed. Something that extended luminous tendrils outward from its body. A translucent glowing form drifting through the vacuum of space with what every single witness later described as apparent intention. The crew called them cosmic jellyfish, and the name wasn't poetic. It was clinical. Because what they were describing looked biological, it looked alive. NASA's official response was ice crystals. Frozen water vapor escaping the shuttle's systems, catching sunlight at a certain angle, creating an optical illusion. It was a clean explanation. Satisfying, dismissible. Except the sightings didn't stop. Across entirely different missions, aboard entirely different spacecraft, from crews who had never spoken to each other about what they'd seen, the same report kept surfacing. The same translucent body. The same bioluminescent pulsing. The same coordinated movement through an environment where nothing should be coordinating. In 2001, cosmonaut Yuri Usachev captured video footage from the International Space Station of objects that merged together, separated, and moved in synchronized geometric patterns against a backdrop of open space. Scientists cycled through explanations: exotic plasma formations, electromagnetic boundary phenomena at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, high-energy particle interactions with the spacecraft's own magnetic field. Every theory plausible enough to sound credible. None of them accounting for the one detail that keeps returning to haunt this story. Ice crystals do not turn. Plasma formations do not coordinate. And yet across multiple space agencies, across multiple decades, the descriptions converge with an accuracy that the word coincidence cannot comfortably contain. Number 9. The Phantom Space Station. In March 1991, Commander Anatoly Artsebarsky was looking out the window of Mir when he saw another space station. Not a reflection, not a streak of light. A translucent outline roughly the same size as Mir itself, holding position approximately 2 kilometers away, and then after nearly 3 minutes it faded from view like something that had chosen to leave. Mission Control logged the report, filed it under optical illusion, moved on. But the Phantom didn't move on. Between 1995 and 2001, 4 entirely separate Mir crews reported the same structure. Different people, different years, different psychological states, always the same distance, always accompanied by communication failures, and instrument anomalies that began before the sighting and ended after it. When Mir was deorbited in 2001, the assumption was that whatever had been haunting it would deorbit with it. Then in 2006, an ISS astronaut reported an identical phenomenon during a spacewalk. A massive shadowy structure, momentarily visible against Earth's backdrop, maintaining position, and then gone. Something was out there, across Mir, across ISS, across decades. And whatever it wasn't interested in being photographed. Number 8. The Orbital Light Clusters. In 2005, while passing over the South Pacific at an altitude of 250 miles, astronauts aboard the International Space Station looked down at the dark ocean below and watched lights arrange themselves into a perfect triangle, then a square, then a circle. Then the formation dispersed, only to reassemble into a new geometric configuration seconds later. The event lasted 76 seconds and was recorded on multiple cameras simultaneously. NASA initially classified the footage, then released it with an explanation: fishing boats using high-powered lamps to attract squid. The explanation lasted as long as it took a mathematician to look at the movement data. The formations were shifting configuration at speeds exceeding 500 miles per hour, with perfect synchronization maintained between objects separated by miles of open ocean. No vessel, no drone. No technology that existed in 2005 could coordinate that movement at that speed. In 2011, astronaut Paolo Nespoli captured high-definition footage of a cluster that appeared to actively respond to the ISS passing overhead. The formation rotating, reorganizing, as if acknowledging the observation from above. The lights moved in 3 dimensions, rising and descending through the atmosphere while maintaining their geometric precision. Whatever was down there in the dark ocean below was organized. It was precise. And when the ISS passed overhead in 2011, it looked up. Number 7. The Whispering Stars. In March 2009, astronaut John Phillips was floating outside the International Space Station on a routine maintenance EVA when his communication headset picked up something that should not have been there. Whispers. Rhythmic, structured, modulated. Arriving on a frequency that mission protocol designated as completely silent. Not static, not interference. Something with pattern. Something with what multiple witnesses would describe, independently and without prompting, as almost speech-like rhythm. The transmission lasted 12 minutes before fading. NASA's communications team could not identify the source. Between 2009 and 2017, 14 separate spacewalk missions recorded the same phenomenon, an opening sequence of pulses, following a mathematical pattern consistent with prime number intervals, followed by a modulated whisper frequency transmission that no instrument aboard the station could definitively categorize. Radio astronomers confirmed the signals matched no known terrestrial source, no satellite communication band, and no documented form of space-based interference. The transmissions were strongest on the dark side of Earth, where the planet's own electromagnetic noise dropped away and the signal arrived clearer, as if it had been waiting for the quiet. And the detail that one NASA scientist described as an impossible correlation. The frequency shifts in these transmissions precisely mirror the radiation burst patterns of distant neutron stars. Not approximately, not loosely, precisely. And when you isolate the modulation frequencies and slow the recordings down, the rhythmic structure sounds less like interference and more like something choosing its words carefully. Number 6. The Orbital Shadow. In November 2014, while the International Space Station was passing over the North Atlantic, several crew members looked down at the surface of the Earth and saw a shadow moving across it that no known object could have cast. A perfect circle, 75 miles in diameter, traveling at a constant speed across ocean surfaces and mountain ranges alike, without distorting, without stretching, without behaving in any way that a shadow is physically capable of behaving. NASA pulled satellite weather data. There was no object in the atmosphere or in low orbit large enough to cast a shadow of that scale. The shadow moved against the trajectories of every known satellite in the region. Between 2014 and 2021, ISS crews documented the same phenomenon on 5 separate occasions. Always the same perfect circle, 50 to 80 miles across, tracking across the surface at a rate that matched no atmospheric current and no orbital mechanic in the standard models. During the 2019 sighting, instruments aboard the station detected a measurable fluctuation in Earth's magnetic field directly beneath the shadow's path. Number 5. The Space Spiders. In February 2011, during a routine exterior maintenance EVA on the International Space Station, astronauts discovered that something had built a web on the outside of the hull, not a metaphorical web. Intricate, filament-based geometric structures had formed across the handrails and equipment bays, thin crystalline threads extending outward, from central anchor points in radial patterns that bore an immediate and unambiguous resemblance to spider webs. The formations had not been present 14 days earlier during the previous EVA. They had appeared in vacuum at temperatures approaching negative 270 degrees Celsius, in a radiation environment lethal to most known biological processes. NASA and Roscosmos attributed the structures to crystallization of leaked coolant. Then researchers tried to recreate the formations in simulated space conditions. They failed. Every laboratory attempt produced crystallization patterns orders of magnitude simpler than what had grown on the ISS hull. Analysis revealed silicon and carbon compounds arranged in configurations that matched no known crystallization process. Between 2011 and 2018, the formations appeared 8 more times, and always when micrometeorites struck and damaged sections of the structure, the web repaired itself, within hours, restoring its geometric pattern with a fidelity that passive crystallization cannot produce. Something on the outside of the International Space Station was building, and whatever it was building, it wasn't finished. Number 4. The Cosmic Lightning. In August 2015, while passing over Central Africa during a severe thunderstorm, astronauts aboard the International Space Station watched lightning strike upward, not down into the ground, the way every electrical discharge in the history of atmospheric science had been documented to travel, but up, erupting from the tops of storm clouds and extending luminous blue columns more than 250 miles above Earth's surface. Unlike the millisecond duration of a standard lightning strike, these discharges sustain themselves for nearly 2 full minutes, pulsating with increasing intensity before gradually fading. Instruments aboard the ISS detected electromagnetic anomalies, orders of magnitude stronger than anything previously recorded from atmospheric electricity. But the scale wasn't the most disturbing part. The most disturbing part was the structure. The energy columns branched and reconnected in repeating patterns that, when analyzed, bore an uncomfortable resemblance to neural network architecture. Between 2015 and 2023, 13 additional events were documented. During the 2019 observation, instruments detected particles within the energy columns accelerating to near relativistic speeds, velocities that the known physics of Earth's upper atmosphere cannot generate. Random discharge doesn't branch in repeating neural patterns, and particles don't accelerate to near the speed of light inside a thunderstorm, unless the thunderstorm is doing something we have never seen a thunderstorm do before. Number 3. The Phantom Cosmonauts. In December 1973, Commander Gerald Carr of Skylab 3 was awake while his crewmates slept when he looked out the window and saw someone outside, a humanoid figure, no spacesuit. Floating alongside the station in the vacuum of space where exposed human tissue would last seconds, the figure was there, and then, when Carr moved to photograph it, it was gone. Then in 1984, all 6 crew members of Salyut 7 simultaneously reported seeing 7 humanoid figures outside the spacecraft, bathed in orange light. Not 1 crew member, not 2. All 6, simultaneously. During a 1996 shuttle mission, 2 astronauts independently reported sensing an additional presence inside the vehicle during the night cycle, not seeing anything but sensing something, with enough conviction that both filed formal reports without having spoken to each other first. The same phenomenon was documented on 4 subsequent ISS expeditions. Approximately 27% of all long-duration space travelers report some version of this experience, and every time an astronaut attempts to document it, it disappears. Whatever it is, it knows when it's being watched, and it knows how to stop being seen. Number 2. The Living Cloud. In September 2016, the ISS passed over the South Pacific, and astronauts observed a cloud formation 200 miles in diameter, doing something meteorologically impossible. It was moving directly against the prevailing high-altitude winds, maintaining its circular structure in defiance of the physical forces that should have torn it apart within minutes. As the station passed overhead, the formation responded. It reorganized into a spiral pattern that tracked the ISS trajectory, as if the cloud had noticed something passing above it and had turned to follow. High-resolution cameras captured smaller vortices inside the formation, rotating in synchronized counterpatterns that meteorologists described as mathematically impossible for natural cloud behavior. Between 2016 and 2024, 11 separate observations were made, each sharing the same core characteristics: circular structure, autonomous movement against prevailing winds, and a responsiveness to observation platforms passing overhead that fluid dynamics models have no framework to explain. During the 2020 sighting, electromagnetic readings produced patterns that one NASA scientist described as bearing uncomfortable similarity to neural firing patterns. If something more complex is at work, could our planet's atmosphere occasionally host phenomena that blur the very definition of what constitutes a living system? Number 1. The Cosmic Void. In February 2012, astronauts Alexander Ponomarev and Anthony Roberts were performing a routine EVA near the Z1 truss of the International Space Station when both of them simultaneously entered a region of space where everything stopped working. Instruments failed, communications cut out, and time broke. For what Mission Control recorded as approximately 94 seconds, both astronauts reported experiencing a subjective duration of nearly 20 minutes. When they returned inside, both described the region as darker than the surrounding space. Not darker the way shade is darker than sunlight, but darker the way the absence of a concept is different from its presence. Ponomarev used a specific phrase in his debrief that appears in multiple subsequent incident reports from different astronauts across different missions: an absence of everything, including distance itself. Both astronauts reported, identically and without prior consultation, the overwhelming sensation of being watched by something inside the void, not the generalized unease of an isolated environment, but a specific, directional, focused attention aimed at them from within the darkness. Between 2012 and 2023, 5 additional spacewalks produced identical reports. NASA established a classified research group in 2015 to investigate codenamed Project Abyssal. We have sent human beings into space for more than 60 years. We have screened our explorers for every psychological vulnerability we know how to test for. And across 60 years, across every space agency, across every era of spaceflight, the same things keep appearing at the edge of what we can explain. The same pulsing forms, the same phantom structures, the same geometric lights, the same whispered signals, the same shadows without sources, the same webs that repair themselves, the same lightning that thinks, the same figures at the window, the same clouds that watch, and the same darkness that looks back. If you like the video, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Let's chat in the comments.